Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show, brought to you by Segmentify, the fast, lean learning machine, the fastest learning, most revenue-generating personalization platform for e-commerce.
Hello, can you believe it? We are over halfway through the first ever series of the eCommerce Growth Show. This is the series where we're focusing in on what you as a retailer need to know about to take your sales growth to the next level in 2020. Each of our 6 episodes focuses on a different area that's essential for maximising e-commerce growth. Already live are our interviews with BigCommerce's Head of Europe, Mark Adams, Segmentify's own Murat Soysal, and Gavin Laugini from .digital. So yes, we've already looked at how you can turn the changing tech space into a competitive advantage, at what on-site personalisation strategies the best retailers are adopting, and how to shift your customer communications from the volume game to something far more granular and profitable. A pretty cool first half to the series. All that is available for you to listen to right now via your podcast app of choice. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, etc., etc. And please remember to subscribe to the show so you don't miss the ones we've got coming up, where we'll be focusing on how post-purchase affects growth. In this episode, we're covering 3 interlinked big topics: payments, mobile, and international. I'm Chloe Thomas. I'm the host of the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast, best-selling author of multiple books on e-commerce, and the co-host of this show. Right, I'm joined on every episode of this series by Phill Kay from Segmentify. Hello, Phill.
Hello, Chloe.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to learn more about payment strategies because I have a feeling it's going to be a big topic this year. So I'm quite excited that we're getting in early with it. So why did you want to include Brian from Adyen as a guest in this series?
Well, that's a great question. I've been around in the e-commerce world for a number of years now, and I actually kind of saw Adyen start to rise, I suppose, if you like. I've been involved in sort of e-commerce partnerships for a good few years now, and out on the circuit, if you like, and talking to brands. I've just noticed Adyen sort of coming into the frame more and more, and thought to myself, well, I've got to find out about these guys and what they're doing. And so when I was sort of chatting to them and finding out more about what they did, it really struck me that what they were doing was something quite disruptive and quite unique in the market. And that was a number of years ago when it just sort of started. And I noticed actually when I went to a few events that they were talking at, that they were really compelling to the audiences. These were brands of agencies and agencies themselves. And it was like, wow, there's something going on here. There's a bit of noise and a bit of rumble around Adyen, and they're getting a lot of interest and a lot of people going up to them after the talk and chatting to them and stuff. And I just thought, well, I'm going to have to keep these guys on our radar. In terms of empowering our team, which is what part of my job is to do, to make sure that they're kind of talking to brands and retailers about all sorts of stuff. It could be personalization, but it could also be payments, or it could be platforms or whatever. So I always hold that in my back pocket in terms of trying to communicate that back to the team. And so obviously with Adyen, I was like, people need to hear about this because they're doing something unique out there. They're disrupting the market. They're making it incredibly simple to do everything. They're the acquirer and they're the gateway, and they bring all the other payments into one place. I'm like, wow, they're doing something here that other people aren't. And I suppose that was the reason why I reached out to Brian then and had a chat with him, had lunch with him. Lovely guy. And obviously you'll hear him in a second. And started to sort of partner with them effectively. So I thought it would be really useful to bring him in on this series and get him to share, if you don't know much about Adyen and what they do, all about what kind of noise they're making out there in the market and how they can hopefully help you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think payment strategies is just such an important thing for 2020. So guys, what you've got coming up in this episode is we're going to take you through why you should care about payment strategies. If you're thinking payments boring, I don't care, trust me, you will not be by the time you get to the end of this episode. We're also going to talk about what steps to take to build your payment strategy. And then, because if that wasn't enough, we're going to talk about two other hot topics for 2020, which is mobile and international, and get fairly deep into ways which you can quickly improve your performance in both of those. And if you're thinking of diving into either of those properly this year, then some things you need to consider before you get started. So, Phill, are you ready to get our guest on?
Absolutely, let's do it.
It's time to welcome our guest. Brian Mapley is the head of mid-market UK sales at Adyen. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you want to understand how getting your payment strategy right can have a positive impact on your business growth, then Brian is the one you need to hear from. Adyen have been helping merchants manage their payments from around the world since 2006. They've got offices in over 20 different countries, and in 2018 processed over 159 billion euros of payments. Hello, Brian.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really good.
Hello, Brian. How you doing?
Hi, Phill. I'm good.
So I hear that at Adyen, they call you the Milkman. Why is that?
So I thought you might bring that one up. So I've been at Adyen just short of 7 years now, and obviously when we first started, we had quite a small sales team. And in one of the early sales meetings, we were just talking through some of the merchants that we work with, and I was like kind of listing off mine. I said, well, I always deliver. That's why they call me the Milkman, and it just stuck throughout the year. So everyone just refers to me as the Milkman.
That is a very good nickname because you deliver
every time.
Brilliant. So let's talk about payment strategy.
Sure.
I'm really interested to hear about how a great payment strategy can help our listeners grow their businesses. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, no problem at all. So let's kind of like take a few steps back then. So let's go back a few years. So in the old world, brands were more powerful than customers. So the brand was everything. So brands controlled that pure shopping experience. So you probably remember the time, Phill, when we were youngsters, we had to go into a store. So every town had all of the brands, and you go into your local store. All those years ago, if I wanted the latest album of my favourite rock band, I'd go into probably one of the local stores, and if they had a selection of stock, and if that stock was out of stock, they had no clue when they were going to get that stock in. They had no clue whether the same store in the next village or the next village after that had got the stock. So you'd have to get on the bus, get in the car, get your parents to take you wherever to try and find that item that you wanted, and you go into the next town. And I think that was the shopper experience of those times. But let's fast forward to today, and technology has changed everything. Smartphones are now the research engines; they're the purchasing vehicles. So the consumer is now in charge, and now they want to buy and pay on the go. In the new world, customers are on the driving seat. They choose how to interact with a brand. And the payment strategy has to be built around this. As consumers, as me and you, Phill, we expect convenience anytime or anywhere. And companies can struggle to meet their expectations, and our expectations. And sometimes they disappoint us at times, So brands have to reinvent themselves now, or the customers will simply go anywhere else because there's so much choice out there. And again, harping back to when we used to go out shopping, or you'd go out in the evening and you'd queue up at an ATM, and you'd be really disappointed that you can only get 250 quid out in one day from a cash machine. But people don't carry cash anymore because that's not how lifestyle is.
I had cash for years in my wallet. Nah.
Correct, yeah. But again, do you even take your wallet out now these days?
No, I haven't got a wallet. Yeah, you're right.
Most of us want to get a taxi or an Uber in London, New York, Paris, etc. And have our card registered in a payment app, and in the knowledge that when we get out and complete that journey, that payment is already taken care of. Most of us want to go to a theme park, say again somewhere like Lego, and take our family an example, and not to worry about carrying our wallets around. We want to wear wearable tech that can touch and go at any touch point and buy anything during the course of that visit, whether it's a burger, whether it's a merchandise, or where it's fast tracked onto that new ride. So again, it's that ability to touch and go. So some of us want to turn up at football matches, like myself, say at Spurs Stadium, for example, and just take our membership card, and that becomes that one card for all transactions around the stadium, including food, drinks, scarves, programs, etc. And then, I want a notification that, say, Kane has bagged a last-minute winner, and I get a short URL with his shirt number and name included, and it takes me straight through to a payment page to complete that transaction. I want to be playing mobile games on my phone, either while I'm sitting on the train, on the bus, or even in the loo, and complete that in-game purchase with just one click. We want to know that we can download the last 7 series of Lost, for instance, on our favorite streaming service, or listening to our favorite tunes on Spotify, safe in that our knowledge that our monthly subscription payment is taken care of. On a Friday night, we want to order pizza from our favorite takeaway marketplace app, knowing that our payment details are already stored and that payment is already completed. I want to go into my favorite sports store, buy another pair of trainers. Just don't tell the wife, because she will kill me.
Another pair?
Another pair. I don't want to queue at the till. I don't want to queue at the till. I've got other things. I've got more pairs of trainers on about. I want the shop assistant to be able to come to me and to be able to take that transaction while standing in the store, anywhere in the store. I purchase and off I go to that next store. If I'm a tourist, or tourists are in our now major cities, now want to pay in their own country's payment methods at point of sale, which has never been seen before, with the likes of Alipay, UnionPay, and WeChat Pay. But again, as consumers ourselves, Phil, we don't just want to pay by cards now. We want to use the latest payment methods, whether that be Apple Pay, Google Pay, or the use of the buy now, pay later methods. But most of all, want to make that retail purchase on the go, anywhere, on any device. And when we do buy it online, we want to be able to return that item to our local store on the same transaction without any wait or any hassle. I think the examples I've given show that there is a fundamental power shift happening in the world at the moment. Apps deliver goods and services instantly and conveniently. Payments is now frictionless and often invisible. Brands have had to endure, and the flourishing ones, while others are floundering, are the ones that have embraced those changes in payments and have come up with a payment strategy that includes a lot of what I've been talking about. But then again, there's more to it than that. This includes all the latest payment methods that may happen. However, the key to all this is being able to see all of those payment channels in one place without the need to contact with multiple providers. Retailers need a streamless link between online and offline transactions, while improving customer engagements and interactions by helping make better use of valuable payment data. We remember the times, right, before we had smartphones. So, Phil, can you imagine what you used to carry around with you before you had a smartphone? You had a camera, you had calendars, you had filofaxes, you had pages, you had those huge mobile phones that you used to carry on your shoulder with terrible ringtones. You had gaming devices. How painful was that? Then all of a sudden, that smartphone became that one device that everyone wanted. And that means you had everything, with one provider. And Adyen's done the same with that end-to-end payment process. So being able to be the gateway and the acquirer, the merchant account, with an inbuilt fraud tool, talking directly to card schemes, providing all of those payment channels, e-commerce, app, mobile, moto, wearable, point of sale, all in one back office.
And what does it mean about the gateway and the acquirer?
Yeah, so traditionally, there was always separate companies or third parties trying to complete a payment flow. So you had a gateway provider, you had an acquirer, which talked directly to card schemes to get that authorization, and then you'd have another third party fraud tool, and all of those guys would try and integrate together to try and complete that payment flow. But what would happen is, one might drop out, and then the payment flow would drop, and then everyone would be trying to blame each other to what was happening or what was going wrong in that instance. What Adyen did is built that from the ground up as one platform, so we're not interlinked with any other third parties. We don't need a third party to complete that payment flow. So everything was built in house, and by doing that, there's no split between your payment gateway and your acquirer. We can get we talk directly to the card schemes, and we do that so we can get high authorization rates, and we can make that journey better for that consumer.
So, Brian, when it comes to payment strategy, I always think when we put the word strategy on something, it's like that point at which someone's gone, "Ooh, I actually need to be proactive about this," and not just kind of let it evolve. So I imagine we've got quite a lot of people listening who, if they weren't already, having just heard you talk through everything in so much detail, and thank you for doing that, they've probably gone, oh, okay, I need to really care about this, and I need to get proactive about it. For them who've just let it kind of evolve, and they've added this and they've added that and they've got something, and to be honest, they don't really know how it's all working. For them, what's the first step to putting that proactive payment strategy in place, the one that's really going to help them enhance their sales this year?
Yeah, the one that's really going to help is, I think, is looking at your current payment provider, and can they provide everything that I've just discussed over the last probably 5 minutes about, can you have that ability to be able to offer all of your channels, all of the payment channels that you want, that's going to make an increase in your revenues. But not just can you offer all of those channels, can you offer those and see all of that data in one back office? So can you match up where your online transactions and your offline transactions marry, and can you then also, if someone buys online, can they then refund that transaction potentially in a store on that same transaction? And then that would then build on to be able to take that one stage further, is that customer data, and then what you can do to help with that customer data, marrying that with what's in your basket, and can then building customer loyalty, and then reaching out to customers to say, actually, we noticed you purchased this at this stage. What can we do then to make that revenue grow further?
And I suppose once you've got everything in the right place, which just for one's sanity makes a lot of sense, you're getting a lot of data there about what payment methods people are actually using on what devices and so forth. And presumably that can then help you take your payment strategy to the next level by analysing that data.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is we've shown that we've done that with multiple merchants at different times. So say View Cinema, for instance, right? How crowded now is the cinema scene? You've got such a great choice of which cinemas you want to go to. So View Cinema chose us because we could then use our payments insight, tie that with their basket data, so we can tell whether someone's buying popcorn or not buying popcorn, what film they're watching, what kind of genre of film they're watching, so that they can then choose. So that means what View can now do is they can feed that into customer loyalty and say, actually, we noticed you watched this. Why don't you come back to us and watch this? And we'll give you a discount. We noticed you purchased this. Why don't you have that pre-ordered before you come back to us, and we'll have it ready for you? So again, it's being able to use that customer data in a way that you're empowering your customers to be able to come back to you and continually shop and spend more money with you.
And just being possibly a bit too future thinky here, so feel free to tell me if I'm being too big sky. But presumably that would then take us to the point where, in that View instance, we can see that this person buys a family set of tickets on the tablet on a Friday evening for the weekend, but they buy, kind of date night tickets on the mobile on a Monday morning, and then send them the right messages at the right time, so they get the latest Minions film on a Friday, but they get the latest rom-com on a Monday, being very simplistic about it.
Yeah, but correct, because you can do exactly that, because we're tying that payment data that Adyen's providing. So again, how much are they spending, and where they're spending it, back with the basket data of what was actually bought. So again, whether it's that rom-com or was that horror film or the children's film, and then they can use that data then to then push back to their customers to say, actually, we noticed you watched this. Then why not watch a similar film again at the same time?
Cool. And there's two big. I'm going to give you the option of which one we talk about first here. There's two huge e-commerce topics that a lot of people are talking about at the moment. One is the opportunity of going international, and the other is getting mobile right. And I know, and I know that payments can have a big impact in both those areas. So which one would you like to talk to us about first, mobile or international?
International, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think, one of the key things at Adyen that we built really on early is that, we noticed those key iconic British brands that wanted to go international, but had no clue how to do that. The global e-commerce market, is projected to double by the end of this year, from 2 trillion to 4 trillion. On top of that, there's always reports. The McKinsey report predicted that the flow of goods and services will triple across borders. So, international merchants need to know how to go international because, over again, I've been at Adyen nearly 7 years, and time and time again, merchants say to me, Brian, I want to go into Europe. I want to go into China. They'll just take cards, right? And that is never the case. If a merchant comes to me and says, Brian, I want to go into, say, Holland, for instance, you've got to understand that 75% of the population will want to pay by what's called Ideal, which is a bank-to-bank transfer payment method. So if you offer cards, just pure cards in Holland, you're not going to take many transactions. And the same to be said in many other countries across Europe as well. So whether that is, say Germany, for instance, again, not very card-centric country. They want to pay something like buy now, pay later payment methods like your Klarnas or your so forth, because they don't want something on credit card. But further afield from that, it gets really, really interesting when it comes to different payment methods. So if you want to go in for China, for instance, we've took many companies into China like Le Chameau, Brompton Bikes, etc. You've got to be offering your Alipays, your Union Pays, your WeChat Pays, because local payment methods are key, important if you're looking to grow the revenue, because that is what people in those countries want to be able to see in your payment page when they're clicking through to buy. And if they don't see those, they will then drop out and you've lost that transaction. So you need a payment provider that can provide a solution in every market.
Yeah, because if you've gone to all the trouble of getting your home market into one place, into one provider, one dashboard where you can see everything and you can get all that benefits from the data, what you don't want to then have to do is to log into something else for every other country, do you? So yeah, you've got to have one who can do everything.
Yeah, can you imagine if you did that, what you just said, can you imagine if you did that for the UK, but you could do that globally? I bet you could provide all of the payment methods that you required globally in all those different countries, but not just the payment methods, well, the different currencies. You need to be providing those different currencies. But, as again, if we're talking about helping costs as well, you want to be able to settle into that local currency as well. So you don't want to be able to have to always settle back to GBP or USD or euros. So again, it's the wider picture, it's pay methods, it's currencies, but it's also authorization rates. You need a payment provider that can have local acquiring in those regions, because otherwise everything goes cross border and your authorizations drop. So again, there's no point offering all these different payment methods, offering all these different currencies if the authorization is not going to be the best. So again, it's having using providers like Adyen who have built a global reach to make it one reach, one platform for all of our merchants.
Yeah, simplicity, getting things simple and easy to use is just so essential, which brings me on to kind of my last question, which is mobile. Mentioned it earlier. Cannot have you on here and not talk about mobile, because the payments element is one of the biggest barriers to those pesky mobile conversion rates. So have you got a couple of tips for our listeners on how by having a good payment strategy, then they can improve their mobile performance?
Yeah, and it's all about customization for me, because I think we've all had that experience where we've been on a mobile, we've been on a tablet and everything's nice, and you can stream through to your payment page and you can see everything on your payment page. But it's having that ability then to do that onto your mobile. So if it comes through, 3D Secure, etc. With 3D Secure 2.0, there's new ways of doing that, whether that's a code through or biometrics, etc. So it's the being able to optimize that onto your mobile, and being able to provide a payment provider again like Adyen who can optimize that down to your mobile phone, so everything's on one page and it's clear. Otherwise, again, if you're having to scroll through to see where you need to input your card details, you don't want to be doing that. And again, you want to be able to use a provider again like Adyen who can tokenize transactions. So again, if you repeat business on your mobile phone, it just becomes that one-click payment. So again, you're not having to constantly add in all of your card or your payment details.
Thank you, Brian. I think if there's one word that sums up today, it's the quest for simplicity, isn't it? For the customer and for ourselves.
because as consumers ourselves, we want the most easiest thing possible to be able to pay, and a lot of that time is one click. We don't, the amount of times you get fed up of keying in your card details, it's just annoying, isn't it? And sometimes you might even drop out because you think, I'm not doing that again. Where if that next transaction could become one click, or you've been in a store and then you go on the online site of that same store and they've already got your card details captured. How cool is that? And that becomes one click. So again, it's that simplicity.
Well, look, Brian, I think before we say goodbye to you, we should really give you an opportunity to tell the listeners a little bit about Adyen and how they can get in touch with you at Adyen if they're very interested in getting their payments sorted out this year.
Yeah, sure. So feel free to have, we talked a lot there about international expansion. You can find my blog on international expansion on the Adyen website, which is www.adyen.com. Adyen is the full multi-channel unified commerce payment experience on one platform. So we do take payments across all channels that I've mentioned earlier on, and we can take businesses international, which again are the real key. If you're really looking to grow business and you're really looking to drive revenue, then it's either international or it is unified commerce.
Sounds really interesting. I've only learned loads from that, Brian. So thank you so much for that. I kind of coming from the same angle as you. Obviously, we're in the same sort of role, if you like, within e-commerce, and it's incredibly important, isn't it, that our businesses kind of, they differentiate so that you can sustain the services you're offering to your customers. I mean, if you were to say to me, not being an expert in payments, what is it about Adyen that makes you have a unique place in the market? What would you say, almost like an elevator pitch, what would you say to me to say, look, this is why we are a serious company to be talking to about this side of things? How would you do that? How would you advise that?
Yeah, sure. So again, I'll go back to the one platform solution. So, we've built it from the ground up. No one else has that ability to be able to offer the payment gateway, the acquiring or the merchant account and the inbuilt filter on one platform without involving any other third party. And also, it's that ability, as I mentioned before, with you taking all of your payments across all of your channels, whether they're offline or online, in one back office for easy reconciliation and all of the payment methods. But then having the relevant payment methods at any given time. So whether that's at your point of sale, whether that's on your online in a particular country that you want to be able to take that in, but then customizing that so you're not filling that checkout with full of payment methods. We can tell you which ones are the really well known ones and the most used ones, and then you can optimize your payment, your checkout as you see fit for those different countries.
Well, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Brian.
It certainly does, doesn't it? It's like if you want simplicity, there's clearly only one choice. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You have given us such a great insight into how a payment strategy can help an e-commerce business improve this year. And quite frankly, I think anyone listening who doesn't have their payment strategy in place and decent software to run it all, they're just handicapping themselves. So thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Wow, Phill, that was such an insightful session there from Brian. What do you think were kind of the key things from that you'd take away and be telling retailers as you meet them over the coming weeks?
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, one of the important parts of my role, obviously, is strategic partnerships, is that I try and work with companies that are really, strong in their space, and having a chat with Brian about what Adyen is doing, not only in the UK market, but kind of globally. It's just, it's great to see how they're frankly kind of disrupting the payments market by bringing not only the acquiring side and the payment side into one place. And there really are no kind of barriers to entry, in terms of, you have to use this payment gateway or you have to use that acquirer or whatever it might be. They've clearly been in this space for a long time, seen the niche that they needed to create, and then just went and built it from the ground up. So, I mean, that's, for me, clearly why they have a very strong presence in the market and a massive potential in the future. And so, I think that in itself for me is the reason why I take a partnership with them really seriously. And, we're going to work strongly with them, this year on all sorts of initiatives effectively, to help each other as companies out there and give the right solutions ultimately to the brands and the e-commerce retailers that we're talking to. Actually, one of the very interesting things that we're potentially going to try and pursue is the ability to add kind of post-sale, particularly on the click, the click and collect or the bricks and mortar side. There's a window of opportunity post-sale to be able to add actually personalization into a SMS or some other communication to a smartphone to actually try and increase the basket size through that payment gateway for that retailer.
So kind of add something. You've already paid for your P&P. Why don't you add something? Type
exactly
thing.
Right. So you're almost. I know I'm slightly diverting, but it's incredible how the partnership and end-to-end solution can get even more powerful. If you think about a scenario where somebody's just bought a pair of jeans, and within that token half an hour, whatever it is, post-sale, that you're either wandering around the shop or you're wandering around getting your Greg's vegan sausage roll or whatever it is they do these days, that they can get a ping text or a smart message or something that says, hey, did you know that you've got the belt and the shirt or whatever that goes really well with these jeans in your size in stock, by the way, and we'll give you 20% off. And then you draw that customer back into the shop and increase their lifetime value with you, like literally within that moment. So, it's amazing how much we can try and develop this to bring value to ultimately to the client and obviously to the customer, which ultimately is what we're trying to do. So, yeah.
I always think there's an element now when any e-commerce retailer is picking their software and picking their partners, their suppliers, which is finding people who are forward thinking, because so many businesses I come across these days who are in the mire of not being able to do that. My specialism is marketing problems and driving traffic. And I'm saying, why aren't we doing this? Well, because we're stuck on this and they can't do it with it. Our agency can't build a Google Ads product feed, or we can't do this because of the tech. And just to be working with partners who are turning around and going, we've just done this with someone, what do you think? You're like, wow, that's amazing.
Absolutely. And when not only can you do it, but you can do it swiftly, because the tech is so nimble now these days with platforms like Adyen and Segmentify, that you can get this stuff at a very, very affordable price point and an incredibly quick timeline. So it actually opens up the market to retailers that actually might look at technology like this and go, do you know what, we can't afford to do this. But actually now it's flattening the playing field and making it ever more possible for the small brands to compete and beat even the bigger brands at their own game in terms of conversion and revenue and customer lifetime value, which is what it's all about, right? It's keeping the customer to that brand using this tech.
But they can compete only if they're on a tech platform that enables them to. And I thought that was such an important point that Brian made. When I said where do you start with a pricing strategy? Well, it's getting the tech and the foundations in place rather, so as you can actually do these things. And but that goes for so many other areas of e-commerce at the moment. And I think we'll see the winners in 2020 are the ones who've put the right tech stack in place. All of you listening, I know changing tech is painful and I know it's complicated, but my God, when you've got the right things in place, life is so much easier. So much easier.
If you're trying to scale and you're trying to go into new territories, it's absolutely critical to get the tech stack right. Obviously, there's always a budget, but the suppliers know that. The companies that are doing well understand that they've got their business built the right way to be able to offer these services for you at an affordable level, so that you can scale your business with the right tech in the right way. So you have that stability and you can make that money comfortably, knowing it's not going to fall flat on its face because the tech's going to fall over, or you're going to scale too quickly for the tech to keep up with you, or whatever other process you've got to handle.
Yeah, it's so true. Any other key takeaways from what Brian was saying there?
Yeah, I did hear he mentioned Spurs. Yeah, I wasn't very comfortable with that, but hey. No, apart from that, honestly, I thought it was really, really insightful. I thought Brian did a great job. Hopefully, you guys have, got something out of it. And obviously, really thanks for your time and listening and stuff. But yeah, I'm cool.
Another great episode there, which I know all of you listening, Phill says he hopes, I know you're going to have got a lot out of that because Brian shared so much great information.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Phill. Now, I have a feeling that for Series 2, Phill might be banning all mentions of Spurs. Now, other than the football that we've covered some big topics in today's episode. So you should head to segmentify.com/podcast, where you can get your hands on all the links and resources mentioned in this episode and a full transcript. That means a full written version of this whole show that you can print out, save, etc. Via that link, you'll also find details of the whole series. Right now, there are 4 episodes live and we've got another 2 to release. Coming up in the next episode, Phill and I are joined by Sarah Arthrell from Brightpearl, who'll be telling us all about how a poor post-purchase experience causes all sorts of problems with your social proof, undermining everything you do. Now, speaking of social proof, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do leave us a review there, as we'd love to hear what you think of the show.
Put us to the test and let us prove we can drive more revenue for you. Sign up for a completely free proof of concept or split test against your current provider, set up and optimized by our team within a few days at segmentify.com/demo.